and it was extremely painful, and the doctors just wanted to bombard me with painkillers and corticosteroid injections, and they were like, you have to have surgery and you have to wear this really massive metal back brace.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with WholyMe Tech and sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Turing, Upwest Labs, and Hillel at Stanford. Today's solutions for pain management are way off. Welcome Celine Ivari, co-founder and CEO of WholyMe. Having studied genetics of human disease, Celine is well aware of the impact our environment has on predisposition to conditions. When her mother's autoimmune condition flared up as a result of a highly stressful lifestyle, she made it her mission to help her in any way she could. WholyMe stems from this experience. She wanted to revolutionize people's approach to everyday stresses, aches, and pains. At WholyMe, they offer the healthiest, most effective solutions without any compromise on long-term health. Celine Ivari, thank you for joining me on 20-Minute Leaders. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Michael.
I'm extremely excited to have you. And where are you calling from in the world right now?
I'm in London, UK.
London, UK. Well, I'm in Tel Aviv, so it's close but far. But in this podcast, everything is very close. Celine, you have a very unique background of studying genetics of human disease, and following that, really the different initiatives that you founded up to now, WholyMe, really are revolved around this idea of how can we, look at our environment, look at our well-being, and come up with interesting insights and actually actionable items that we can do to improve our well-being. So I'm excited to hear about your journey, going all the way back to studying, biology and studying these things. Tell me a little bit about sort of what you set out to do and what sparked your even curiosity into this field, and then we'll transition into your actual initiatives.
Yeah, sure. So I would have to say that from a fairly young age, I witnessed that pain management is mismanaged and also grossly misunderstood. That's both from my studies and from personal experiences. So firstly, from personal experiences, I personally had a herniated disc in my lower back as a teenager. I was like 17, and it was extremely painful. And the doctors just wanted to bombard me with painkillers and corticosteroid injections. And they were like, you have to have surgery and you have to wear this really massive metal back brace. And thankfully, I didn't listen because I found all that extremely invasive for such a young age. And then, other than that, my mother, who's literally, I mean, she's everything to me. She has an autoimmune condition, which is inflammatory. It's called psoriatic rheumatoid arthritis. And it's extremely painful and it can be debilitating. And a few years ago, she had a flare-up in this condition, which left her on bed rest and with a tremendous amount of pain. And I, having studied science, being interested in health, and having managed my own pain, really took it upon myself to help my mother in any way I could. And from my studies, I was always into sciences, and I studied genetics of human disease. I'd say the key takeaway from my studies was the eye-opening understanding that your genetic predisposition can be completely altered based on your environment. And that's an extremely empowering notion that, yes, you are born with a set of genetic conditions, predisposition to conditions, but the environment you live in can switch on or off these genes. And when you understand that, it sort of gives you so much more power in, understanding how to manage your own health. And so I guess from that, I was extremely careful from my own self to manage my back, my pains in a way that's more holistic, that encompasses all aspects of my life, so that I don't turn to medical solutions for something that essentially is chronic. It's a chronic pain. It's not going to go away. So masking it with painkillers is only going to make me suffer the consequences of their side effects with stomach lining issues, etc. And for my mother, it's an autoimmune condition. It has a genetic predisposition, and I knew that her environment would help either turn off and get back into remission, or at least try to decrease the necessity for medical intervention as much as possible.
And it sounds to me that the framing of this and I guess the switch is this idea of the nature versus nurture, right? And the difference between going through life and saying, I'm destined to be injured, so I guess I'll just succumb to it and I'll take whatever painkillers they give me, rather than saying, well, yes, I do have this predisposition to have that as an indicator, but I still have control over to what effect I'm going to let it control over me.
Exactly.
And there are actually things that I can do to tackle that and to mitigate those consequences instead of just taking those same painkillers that are going to down the line just hurt me even more.
Exactly. And that's extremely empowering. It's understanding that you have this genetic code. It's a sequence of DNA, but over that, you have some kind of cover over your DNA, and that's your epigenomics. And that, can cover some of your genetic predispositions, switching them off, which means some proteins which would normally bind to this sequence of DNA and cause a cellular response to trigger the phenotype that we see, can be switched off with this cover. And this cover is determined by your environment. And what's even more empowering is understanding that cover can also be inherited. So the way your environment will affect your epigenomics can be transmitted to your offspring. And so you're not only doing it for you, you're doing it for your future generations.
I love that.
And I think that's extremely empowering.
So tell me a little bit about how you take that understanding, that motivation. You finish your studies, and then you think, okay, well, how can I actually make use of this and do it in a scalable way that can actually impact a lot of people around the world, right?
I have to admit, it wasn't like that for me. I didn't do my studies thinking, I'm going to do a startup, et cetera. None of that happened. I went on to work for pharmaceutical companies, and as a medical educator. And then I went on to join my family, actually my mother and my sisters, in setting up a hair loss clinic in London called Mishkati. It was an extremely wonderful experience. I didn't want to leave at all. And then this happened with my mom. My mom felt unwell, and it just became my life's mission to help her in any way I could, just with a more holistic approach. And it's honestly the success of that approach that made me think I want to help more people. It sort of happened organically. I started having people around me asking for, I started formulating products based on natural, healthy ingredients for my mother, because I wanted that anti-inflammatory response, but with none of the side effects, or something that would be soothing, relaxing, more caregiving. I mean, you start doing a lot of research on holistic approach to health, and you understand things that are, just the power of touch when you're aching, when you're stressed, and just different elements. And pain is not, it's really grossly misunderstood if you're trying to say pain is a medical condition or pain is a physiological problem, that if you can't see it in an X-ray, then it's, not there. That's a gross misinterpretation. If you think of the phantom limb syndrome, people have agony in a leg that they don't have. There's no nerve ending there. There's no bone. There's no tissue. There's nothing. But the pain is extremely real. And then, you have people that have suffered from a car crash and have a broken arm. They can't even feel that. Pain is super complex, and it involves so many different things. And, by trying to take this holistic approach with my mom, letting her take her medical treatments, but making sure she's also addressing, the psychological aspects that might be related to the intensity of the pain. You can think of people that have flare-ups with autoimmune conditions. They're extremely related to life events. like suffering from grief or an extremely stressful period will cause a flare up in your autoimmune conditions. There's so many variants when it comes to pain. And I guess from my experience with my mother, helping her with a more holistic approach to health, from my own personal experience, and these products that I was formulating that really encourage self-care, I wanted to bring that to more people. Just really educate, explain that some things are inherent to our lifestyle. Stresses, aches, pains, they're inherent to our lifestyle. If you're sitting and working at a desk all the time, you will have, tense neck and shoulders, lower back aches. If you're very athletic and you're running a lot, you might suffer from runner's knees or, tennis elbow if you're playing a lot of tennis. So whether you're super athletic and really into health or you're constantly behind your desk, aches and pains, that's inherent to your life. And stress, well, it's inherent to everybody's life. That's okay. These elements are okay. It's not about eliminating them, and it's not about numbing them. It's understanding what these are from the get-go,
Right.
and understanding that these are messages your body is sending you, asking you to pay attention. And actually, if you are more in tune with your own body, then possibly you won't reach a point where you need medical solutions for an actual medical problem. It's understanding that these are not medical problems, they're lifestyle inherent. And so WholyMe comes in for these kinds of solutions, offering an alternative for lifestyle inherent stresses, aches, and pains that are completely healthy, highly effective, with absolutely no side effects, completely transparent, and encouraging people to, beyond using healthy remedies and products, really understand their bodies differently. So, we have like a balm, which is certified organic. It only has pure, potent botanicals. It's clinically tested for its efficacy. And it's something that we encourage people to use for aches and pains, because it's saying, that part of your body that's telling you, okay, I'm in pain, rather than reaching for your painkiller automatically and numbing that, give your body the attention it is asking you to give, and take a little bit of this completely natural, completely transparent, absolutely not medicinal product, and apply it there. And just that act, actually, of just giving attention to the area of concern is extremely helpful. Now combine that with very effective botanical natural solutions, you're treating yourself better, And it's all about that. So we have, bath salts, which is about taking the time to recover for your muscles post-exercise. We have CBD drops, that's food supplements. That's really to like soothe body and mind when you're under a lot of stress. And everything we're going to do is going to have that sort of concept behind it.
So speaking of that relief balm, I have to hear the story about how you got actually the CEO of Unilever to try it on pre-production. I have to hear that story.
Yeah, I love that story. But I mean, it really goes to say that Paul Polman is an incredible human. So I've always admired Paul Polman's leadership, being the first person to really make of sustainability a business strategy and leading by example when it comes to business acting responsibly and understanding our impact on the planet. I think he was really at the forefront of all that, which seems like a no-brainer today, but he's the one who's made that the case from the get-go. So at the time, my boyfriend was studying at INSEAD. He was doing his MBA at INSEAD, and he was in the Singapore campus, and I had gone to visit him. And by pure chance, he was looking at his emails and reading one out loud, which, just the INSEAD campus would share, like seminars, conferences of people coming and talking to the students. And he's like, oh, Paul Polman's coming to give a conference a talk this week, and I'm like, Paul Polman, Unilever Paul Polman, and he's like, yeah, and I was like, can I please get a seat? Can I please come? And I'm so glad I insisted, and we did went. Obviously, the seminar room's packed. You've got people on the actual stairs. There's no more room anyway. And as expected, Paul Polman gave a wonderful talk, and everyone was literally shaken with a sense of responsibility. At the end of this, we were all like, "What are we doing with our lives? We need to save the world." Anyway, and the organizers had said from the beginning, we're going to have a class after. There will be time for questions, but then everybody needs to leave because, we can't keep people inside the room and everything. And I was like, this is my chance. I'm not giving it up. And so at the end of the seminar, I left my jacket, my bag, everything. I ran to Paul Polman, and I was like, hi, like, I'm a female founder doing, alternative remedies for everyday stresses, aches, and pains, all natural, completely sustainable. And I just wanted to say hi and whatever. And he was like, oh, funny you should say that. I just got off a really long flight and my back hurts. And at the time, my formula, because I used it for my mom, I had it and I'd been testing it with people. So WholyMe was just a thought, but I was sort of testing the formula with people. So I had a balm in my bag and I was like, hang in there. And I ran to my bag and got him the balm. And I was like, I'd love for you to have that and just try it. And if we can ask you how you got on with it. He just told me his email address and then I followed up and he was incredible. He gave us a testimonial of how the balm really helped his back, and he connected us with the CEO of Unilever Ventures. So the very first person I met, and I had like in my pitch deck, Paul Polman's testimonial, which made fundraising so much easier for us.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is just amazing, and I think it really embodies that's like true entrepreneurship. It's not about just growing the company, but it's about like leveraging those circumstances and just breaking the rules and breaking the barriers, and I think that's just that's very, very inspiring. Celine, tell me a little bit about this, the market and where we're headed in terms of natural sustainable remedies versus just more medication. So what's because it does feel that there's this trend. I think that in that trend we're talking about going natural also with food and sustainability. I think that it falls under a similar category, and it feels that we're moving more and more there. Is this really where we're headed as a as a society, that eventually just things will be natural and we're really just starting to see scratching the surface of it?
I think that the more access to information people have, the more conscious decisions they make. And this shift, as you say, in market behavior towards more organic, more sustainable, more natural alternative remedies for well-being is really driven by millennials, by healthy millennials. The millennials are the population, the generation that spends the most on health than any generation we have ever had before. And they rate health the second most important thing in their life, just after family. So it's this generation who has a lot of access to information that are the drivers of this shift in the market that we see. And I think it is a lot about the access to information and the fact that they're more willing from the research they make to test things and witness the efficacy and be therefore a little bit more skeptical towards this huge pharmaceutical lobbying sort of cloud that has been stemmed from the lab for such a long time. For such a long time, you had such big skepticism around natural remedies at all, with people being like, oh, if it's herbal natural, it doesn't work, which is also a fascinating concept that anyone would be so powerful to make people believe that, because where do you think medicine even comes from? It comes from nature. So it's fascinating that they had this kind of power, and they're extremely strong at it. The pharmaceutical space, they won't allow like non-pharmaceutical space to talk about anything that could be medical or medicinal.
Right.
Even at WholyMe, we were caught at the very beginning being like, you're making medicinal claims. It sounds like you are a medicine. And we're completely natural, and we're not. And we weren't trying to be. I mean, it was okay. We just had to change a few wordings, and you have to be extremely careful.
Right.
But I think despite the limitations, despite their influence and the huge budgets they have to do that, people have access to information. And when you have that, you change your behavior. And if you witness the effects of that change in your behavior, then the word spreads,
Right.
So I do think we're going in that direction. I'm not at all suggesting, just for the record, that I'm against pharmaceutical labs or medicine or anything like that. Not at all. Thank God we have that, and it's wonderful, and they will keep evolving and doing tremendous things. And by all means, if you have a medical condition, seek medical treatment, of course. But it's more than that. It's a holistic approach to health that we want to encourage to maximize your chances of recovery, but also for things that are not medicinal. You don't need medical attention. It's really starting to separate those two: anxiety, stress, aches, pains that are induced from your lifestyle. That's not a medical condition. And a painkiller from a pharmaceutical lab with medicinal content, even though it's over the counter and readily available, that doesn't mean it's completely safe. And so, it's trying to rewire people's behavior towards a healthier approach to lifestyle.
I love that. Celine, thank you for sharing with me this industry that I don't think nearly enough about, and I really think that I should. And I'm always excited to learn about these different things that, while they may not yet be in the forefront of what I do, I think that just opening up to this idea, and obviously now the next time that I experience some kind of pain, I intuitively, and for I guess thousands of years, we tend to go immediately to medicine, and now with these alternatives, I'm extremely excited about where it's headed, and I'm extremely excited about what you're doing with WholyMe. And we didn't even talk about the hair thinning thing that I really need for myself. So we're gonna take this offline because I need some advice on that front. Good thing this is a very frontal interview. But before we leave, I have to ask you the most important question, which I don't prepare nearly enough for, but it's still a really fun one, which is 3 words that either you would use to describe yourself, or if I ask anybody that uses or knows WholyMe, how would they describe Celine Ivari?
I would be powerfully caring, very caring.
Okay.
Ambitious and determined.
I love it. Powerfully caring, ambitious, and determined. Celine, thank you very, very much. Best of luck with WholyMe and everything else you're going to be doing. And thank you for making a positive impact on the world. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. It was a pleasure.
Of course.
Take
Thank
care.
you.